We are quitters and we're damn proud of it. So if you're a quitter too, like this video now and share it, because we're going to tell you why quitting is sometimes the best thing you can do.
It's really empowering, right? We want to feel empowered in life. So it's about why is it that you quit? We're talking about our jobs. I quit my job after 32 years of working in corporate America, and you quit yours after about 20 years.
Yes.
So what caused that? Because, when you have these feelings of unfulfillment in your career or feel like you haven't really done much, you could have been much further along, those are all indications of you not being congruent between your heart and your head.
And this idea of congruence is a psychological term that actually has the ability to impact how healthy you feel. Because when we're having to keep doing repeated action that is somehow not aligned with our beliefs, believe it or not, those can have really negative effects on your mental health. And so over the course of many years, because that's how long it took me to finally quit, I agonized over this decision and I kept doing what I was doing, even though I just knew I didn't want to do that anymore.
Right. For me, it was being in my last job in an 18-year career on Wall Street, which was, in many ways very fulfilling for a while. And of course, paid enough so you don't quit. The one catalyst I've talked about in another video is what led me to finally make the move that I realized that I was living somebody else's dream. And it was I come from a culture where, fathers tended to be authoritative back in the old days. And
I don't think that's just your culture.
Well, anyway, I'm an immigrant, as are you. I come from India, and families are full of authoritative dads and moms. And they tell you what are you going to do in your life and, who you're going to marry and so on and so forth. So in my case, my dad picked my career. I wanted to be a doctor, and he told me things that I never want to repeat them, but because I've repeated them enough in my head to know that what held me back. It was my inner voice, not listening to my inner voice, but allowing myself to be run my life by others. And my entire life became working for others. And that's how, I guess, that's what we do. We work for other people to fulfill their dreams and not our own sometimes. And that hurts. And you suddenly find yourself in your 50s and, oh my God, life has passed you by.
Yes. So for me, I quit about 2 years ago after I finally decided I'm just going to burn my boats. So I not only quit my job, I moved to a different part of the state, away from New York City, into the Hudson Valley. And I just decided I was going to set out to be an entrepreneur. I'd never done that before, but I had entrepreneurs in my family. My grandmother was an entrepreneur, and I had some uncles that were entrepreneurs. But that was also not my upbringing, in the sense that my parents really valued, a job, a steady job. And that's what I believed a measure of success was. So when I was contemplating my next steps, I was consumed with worry about what will people think, what will my family think, what will happen, and how will I survive?
Yeah, so those are true fears of a nature that we're all made up of, and the programming has helped us to be in the defensive mode at a very low level of survival. And of course, if my father were alive, he would have never let me quit. But it wasn't until I felt incongruent in my living, and everything was out of balance. I mean, my relationships were fine, but my health was not the best. I felt so much stress in my life at so many points that I felt I was not living my dream. I wasn't living my life. And so when that happens, those are the indicators for you to make change and find congruence and alignment between really deeply who you are, because you're unique to who you are, and you're not like everybody else. But yet the world has created these systems where everybody seems the same in certain jobs and certain ways of living. And I think it's time to really look within yourself and change it.
And there's been this stigma about quitting. Like the word quitting, there's all this, quitters are bad, like stick to something, don't be a quitter. And the truth is, sticking to something when you know it's no longer serving you, when you know it's no longer for your best and highest good, but you stick to it anyway, there's nothing honorable about that, because really you're compromising your health and your well-being. Just like you mentioned, it was starting to affect your health, and the same thing happened to me. Some of you have heard my story where I suffered a stroke because I just was so, I guess when you're doing something over and over and over, and then that alignment is lacking, but you push for it anyway, at some point, something's got to break. This just can't keep on happening. And sometimes that event happens to you in the form of a health situation. Other times it happens outside of you in the form of a circumstance that needs your attention immediately. But all of these little knocks and hunches and actually big life events that cause us to stop in our tracks, they're really turning points that we can take advantage of. So sticking to something just for the purpose of sticking to it, even though it's not fulfilling, and in fact, it's actually draining, that's actually, it's not good for you, and it's not good for the people around you.
So, going back to the point about quitting, I mean, quitters never win, winners never quit. I mean, that's in a different context. That's not what we're talking about. Sometimes quitting is empowering because you're on the wrong end of the stick. You're resisting. You better quit because you're resisting for the wrong reasons. So it's when your alignment with your reasons is when you need to cut the losses of that side and move towards downstream, where you really are flowing, and life will take you through the right spaces to where you need to be, and that's what we mean by this. So if you're thinking, this is the way the world is and that's how we're supposed to be, well, no, that's not how we're supposed to be. We're just programmed to be supposed to be that way. So the idea of finding the alignment is what's at stake for you. So what is it that you're going to do to stick to something that's going to really destroy you versus enhance you? The time that you waste for not pursuing your dreams, like I did, I mean, that's not coming back. So if you're not going to do it now, when are you going to do it? Because there is no other moment. There is no other moment.
No. And, it wasn't until, for me, when I finally decided to give myself permission to quit and burned those boats, I love that saying, because once you burn the boats, there's no turning back, and you have to live with your decisions. You'd be surprised at what you discover on the other side about what you're capable of. And the thing is, we don't really know what we're capable of until we're tested. Mm-hmm. And so if you're going through life avoiding pain, but along the way preventing yourself from truly experiencing pleasure, are you really living? And is that really a way to live?
So truly, going back to the point about feeling fulfilled, if that's not a goal for you, well, then carry on doing what you're doing. But we challenge you to really come back and say, what brings you in alignment? And a very powerful one for us and for me definitely is your end of life questions. Mm-hmm. Come up with 1, 2, or 3 end of life questions. Think that you only have tomorrow to live. What would you ask yourself on your deathbed? I mean, without sounding that morbid, I mean, really, life is only this moment where you have possibilities, because tomorrow is not guaranteed. So what questions are you going to ask yourself?
I think that's a great exercise to do, because we tend to have tunnel vision when we're in this moment. We tunnel vision on the past. But if you can actually make it so that you are projecting yourself into the future and using that scene of, what if on my deathbed somebody asked me these questions? Mm-hmm. What are the answers that I would want to hear coming out of my mouth? Because clarity happens when you're able to begin with the end in mind.
Yeah.
And so if you can today write down some thoughts and imaginings, allow yourself to imagine what a fulfilling, fruitful life would make. The truth is, it's never too late to quit something that is no longer serving you. So figure out what some of those end of life questions are. For me, it was that very exercise that led me to finally decide, you know what? I'm going to quit my job, and no, I'm not going to look for another job. I'm actually going to go all in and double down on my dream to be an entrepreneur, because I really, really want to help people as a coach. And so that's what I do now. I don't believe we introduced ourselves yet, but I'm
okay.
Trisha Ramos. I'm a certified high performance coach, and I'm here with Raju Panjwani. He's a certified leadership coach. And, you know, we love talking about this topic of congruence and why you need to be aware of it and make it be a priority for you to live in congruence.
So we gave you 3 tips. Hopefully you noted them down. Number 1 is to really stick to something that you really know versus what you don't. And it's okay that you find yourself in the unknown, because that's where some of your diamond is, gold is, for you to express yourself in the world. I'm amazed why people don't write things down, don't journal. But when I was introduced to that practice about 9 or 10 years ago, it is just so empowering and freeing. And it gets you to be clear about what you've been doing versus what you could be doing or should be doing. Number 2, time wasted by not fighting for your dreams and not living in alignment because you are serving other people's dreams cannot possibly serve you. So what are you doing about the time that you're spending, that each of us has every single day? And then 3rd, write down your end of life questions. They don't need to be many questions. Perhaps it's 1, 2, or 3.
Don't forget to answer them with your ideal answer, because it's those answers that's going to
give you the indication of where you're at and where you need to be. And don't waste a moment doing things that don't matter in life.
Because time is something we never, ever get back.
So that's our little talk for the day. Again, we've done a few of these videos. Look over there, I think, on your screen. There are a bunch of things that we've talked about in the past with respect to decisiveness or ambition, or how maybe there are 10 lessons that we've learned during this pandemic, as an example. Anyway, get to know us, subscribe in that little bell button.
And share this video with others who you think would resonate with it. Don't forget to share every time you see something that you think is helpful. That's really how we can amplify some of these ideas that people need to hear more of. And I think that if this is something that you know is going to help somebody you know, please share it with them.
Exactly. So, and we'd love to get your feedback, questions, comments. We appreciate any feedback. It's all good. It's all for the collective consciousness. So thank you for being here.
Take care.